Our trends are focused around mindfulness, tactile, farming, neuronutrition, biohacking, technofoodology, advertising, security, politics and food, and the future supermarket. We will be discussing trends, not fads. This forecast is not about short-term opportunities that will fade quickly, but rather issues that will change the way we grow our foods, the foods themselves, how we sell our foods, and the long-term impact of all these things. Mindfulness is one of the most overused terms these days and has quickly become the mantra for many brands' marketing objectives. But do they really understand what it means? Jon Kabat-Zinn is credited to be the father of mindfulness when back in 1979 he created an 8-week course at the University of Massachusetts Medical School to treat patients with cancers and chronic pain. His premise was simple. Based on Buddhist meditation, it was designed to soothe our neural networks. It worked and has been shown over the decades to reduce chronic pain by well over 50%. Meditation is all about a concentrated focus in order to increase awareness. And now we come to the new 2018 Food World definition of mindfulness, which I'll simply describe as the quality or state of being conscious or aware. Not quite as lofty, but a huge step forward for the food industry and for consumers. This reflects a new consumer attitude mostly led by the millennial generation to truly understand everything they can about a particular food or beverage, and then support that company, whether it be brand or retailer, by aligning with their values and supporting them with their purchases. Morgan Spurlock of Supersize Me fame says it best: transparent, localicious, transparent, local, and delicious. Consumers are reading more labels and understanding them. Ken Dykewald, in his 1986 book, Body Mind, was one of the first thought leaders of the baby boom generation to present just how the mind and body influence each other. His objective was to offer tools to achieve a higher self-awareness. But Body Mind also gives us a blueprint to understand how we make decisions about which foods we choose. Innova Market Insights named mindfulness the #1 trend for 2018, and they illustrate how that body-mind connection are influencing new food and beverage product introductions in the supermarket. 7 out of 10 US and UK consumers want to know and understand an ingredient list. Food and beverage brand introductions that feature ethical claims on their packages have increased 7-fold since 2010. On-package human, environmental, and animal ethic claims continue to grow. Retailers like CVS are executing on point with in-store executions like Snacks That Give Back. And the hospitality business is promoting vegetarian vacations that are built on the foods they serve and also detail how their buildings, how their facilities, how their business practices align with the holistic values of a vegetarian consumer. This past Monday, a McDonald's in Bethesda, Maryland, became the first McDonald's ever to become a certified green restaurant. Major brands like Honda and Subaru run ad campaigns designed to help others. And new startups like Food Maven that attracted Walter Robb, the ex-CEO of Whole Foods, as an active investor, is working to recapture the food that's lost in the system to prevent waste, and then selling it to food service operators at a huge discount. One of the most critical areas that we're witnessing the mindfulness movement is just how we approach food. We've shifted from movies and books that scare us to those that inspire us. There's movies like Okja, where a Korean farm girl raises her giant pig and finds out the truth, or Leo DiCaprio's Before the Flood, are great examples that motivate us to understand GMOs and climate change in ways never before taken that reaches deep into both our intellect and our hearts. While Wasted finally brings real people and emotion to that overplayed and ignored statistic that 40% of all food is being wasted.
It really does come down to what are our values as society.
You gonna help me cook when we get home? I'll try and help.
Tackling food waste doesn't need to be depressing, it's delicious.
It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You can reduce the amount of food waste.
That's exciting. This is something important. We can do it.
The new leaders of food are driven by a new set of corporate values. social conscience, health and wellness, enhanced nutrition, and life hacking. And yes, they do want to make money, big money. If I had to point to one trend that I believe will have the biggest impact on our industry, it is tactile. The sense of touch. Think about how food is so tactile. There's probably no profession that's more tactile than being a chef. Now let's expand this into all of our senses. Think multi-sensory as the new secret weapon, both with products and in store. The typewriter is back, for example, in the Tom Hanks movie and his book. San Francisco Airport has a huge display of antique typewriters, some well over a century old, that produced best-selling novels, famous screenplays, and even Beatles songs. Now we can buy, for $249, a metal typewriter keyboard that connects to an iPad. It's all about being involved, feeling and hearing the connection. New production record players and old-style Polaroid one-steps are back for $100. We've witnessed a more intellectual connection to our foods, and now it gets physical. There's been a food information overload, and now we need grounding. Over the past year or so, we saw the first step, visual, unicorn-colored foods and black foods, and now the connection moves even deeper. Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, or ASMR, has created a new food media world where acoustic sounds like slurping and chewing and whispering and the crinkling of packaging trigger a food euphoria that sends a tingling down the back of our necks. Not convinced? Well, YouTube stars like ASMR D Darling, Hungry Cakes, ASMR The Chew, and Gibi ASMR have tens of millions of followers, and their video views range from a lowly million to over 6 million. They have become the next food superstars, where they lead viewers into another dimension to feel and to hear food. In Shanghai, Aldi, who in that country only sells through Alibaba, presented a food fashion show where attendees ate their foods on the sides of the runway while models paraded their real food fashions. Poke Bowls and its many startup franchises are popping up everywhere, offering a variety of colors and textures. Poke King, Poke Bowl, Poke Works, Ocean Poke, Hokey Pokey, Bravo Poke, Wise Fish Poke, and just plain Poke are challenging fast food and QSR formats. Sampling will evolve from unemotional food presentation and little white plastic cups to beautifully displayed presentations that expand the retail experience and go far beyond giving out a free morsel of food. 3D printing will create more tactile food experiences and become a more efficient and less wasteful food production method. And then there's the phenomenon that is affecting this holiday season that's also making its mark on YouTube, as toy makers, according to the Wall Street Journal, are bringing an element of surprise to the holiday season. It's the unboxing trend, similar to ASMR's food trend. CGTN explores just how big the world of unboxing really is.
This Play-Doh set, 850 million views. 318 million for these Spider-Man toys. This young YouTuber's videos have clocked up more than 4 billion total views.
It all starts with agriculture, where our food comes from, and that's about to change dramatically. By 2050, the world's population will reach 9.6 billion, with 65% of us living in urban areas. Our land, water, soil, and environment are all under siege, and the USDA says that climate change is going to create challenges for us all. We're seeing a more direct farm-to-consumer connection as communities strive to get closer to nature. We're seeing more consumers opting for a plant-based diet. The Fresh Food New York app is a virtual farmers market where New Yorkers can purchase local food directly from New York farmers, fishermen, and artisans. There's a new breed of younger farmers who are entering the fields. The USDA's latest Census of Agriculture reports that the number of farmers aged under 35 is increasing. That's only the second time that's happened since 1900, and 69% of them have college degrees, far higher than the 40% incidence of the general population. Younger, smarter farmers will bring us into a new era of agriculture. As Innova shows, there's been a huge rise in plant-based everything. Last year, we spoke of the opportunities for meatless burgers like Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat. Today, Impossible Foods burgers are sold in Umami Burger, Bear Burger, and other chains. Beyond Meat's offerings are in the meat cases at Kroger, Albertsons, Shaw's, Wegmans, Safeway, and Ahold banners. Vertical indoor farming is more efficient, bringing more farms closer to where people live, reducing expense and environmental impact. In Linkhopen, Sweden, a multi-use building will open in 2020 with 16 stories of farms and offices at a 3-to-1 ratio, with a retail store and even a wholesale operation. This will save over 1,100 tons of CO2 emissions and 13 million gallons of water. Here's a 100-plus story high vertical farm downtown. These vertical farms offer so many benefits, it's impossible to ignore this as the farming of the future. A 30-story high farm, for example, uses 26 million kilowatts of power, but generates 56 million kilowatts through solar energy and biogas digesters, which can be sold to others. 1 farm acre indoors produces the same yield as 4 to 6 acres does outdoors. In-home farms that utilizes NASA-developed technologies are available at IKEA. And a new breed of seafood farms are popping up along our coasts. But with every new advance, there are those in the old school who fight. One fight that's now taking place rests within the organic ranks on whether hydroponically grown produce should even be considered organic, since there's no soil involved in the growing process. How absurd. This will probably lead to more consumer confusion rather than empowerment to buy more organics. Bill Gates has bought 25,000 acres to develop a new smart city from the ground up, which I hope could be a new model for a food community. It's the perfect platform for vertical farming, drone and autonomous vehicle deliveries of groceries, and who knows what else. It's all about the food. This is an unfortunate reality that we live with, that the foods we eat are the #1 cause of preventable death and disease in the U.S. Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health just reported that by the time today's kids are 35, half of them will be obese. It's time to get our priorities straight. About 10% of the world's population is on some kind of exclusion diet, having to avoid certain foods because of a specific ailment or allergy. Take into account excluding foods for preferences, and that number is reported to be well over 50% of the population. Even worse is the new report from the Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition that ranked the U.S. 21 out of 34 countries in their Food Sustainability Index. The reason our score is so low is based on our inability to fight nutritional challenges. The U.S. consumer is getting smarter about food choices than ever, but we still have a long way to go. Let's talk for a moment about SMART. Neuronutrition looks at how our foods affect our brains. Biohacking breaks all the rules to create a science for more individualized nutrition and products. We've moved from heart health to bone health to gut health and now to brain health. The food and brain connection is important, from growing our foods to cooking to how we eat to the nutrients themselves. Look for EPA and DHA omega-3s to explode and to become pervasive ingredients in all food and beverage products for all consumers, from infants to seniors. Innova has tracked a 36% increase in global product launches with brain claims over the past 5 years, especially in sports, nutrition, and cereals globally. We see the trends, from snack bars to baby foods to hip supplements, that are among the fastest growing subsector in the $36 billion supplement market. We now see chefs at London's Squirrel Restaurant working hand in hand with nutritionists, combining great taste with great nutrition and giving their customers advice right in the restaurant. Better for you claims, according to Innova, now appears on almost half of all products globally. As we discussed in our 2017 trends, bugs are big and getting bigger. They're loaded with nutrients and protein. Their positive nutritional, cost, and environmental profile are finally making their way into our diets. Are we going to eat a bug sandwich? Absolutely not. But as ingredients, there's little doubt for their success. And we're better to start educating than with our next generation. There are Engay foods that are products like salmon that are chopped and formed and reformed to take their natural shapes, that are designed specifically to help seniors avoid choking. And dulce is a new strain of seaweed that has 3 times the nutritional value of kale and tastes, of course, like bacon. And then there's ahimi nigiri, whole foods vegan sushi that is made from tomatoes. The most exciting may well be based on our DNA, to determine what foods we need to achieve that fountain of youth that Ponce de Leon once promised us all. It's not in Florida, just in every supermarket. In fact, back in 2005, Hy-Vee, Byerly's, and others sold Self, a DNA kit with a singular trait for heart disease or diabetes, among others. We were not ready. Now we are. Neil Grimmer, CEO of Habit, who brought us Plum Organics, is one of the leaders in this emergent space based on his personal experience when he gained weight and saw his health diminish after he sold his business. Other companies like Fitness Genes, Wellness FX, Cyrix Labs, Everly Well, and Geno Palette are all trying to make DNA food discovery a new path for nutrition.
So I took to searching the internet and found out that a person's DNA could actually translate into actionable nutrition recommendations, and it wasn't that expensive. So I ordered a kit from Geno Palette, and it was so simple. All I had to do was spit in a test tube and fill out a questionnaire about my health history, preferences, and habits. Then they analyzed my DNA against genetic markers linked to health and diet. From there, they gave me a list of the types of food I could eat and the foods I should stay away from, completely changing the way I looked at food. And all of it was based on my own specific genetic traits that shape my body's unique nutritional needs. It changed my kitchen, my family, and my way of life. So I took to searching the internet and found out that a person's DNA could actually translate into actionable nutrition recommendations, and it wasn't that.
Now it's time for our first quick poll. So we're going to give you 30 seconds. We're going to play some of that Lithuanian music that isn't from Lithuania, and we want to know whether or not you would submit your DNA to create a custom nutrition profile. There's 3 answers: yes, maybe, need to know more, or no. The 30-second mark starts now. And the results are 47% of you say yes, 37% says maybe, I need to know more, and 16% absolutely not. It's all about how people will be acquiring these foods. Technofoodology and artificial intelligence in particular is one of the best things to ever happen to a grocery store. Our smartphones and all that we can do with them, our home-based assistants that are ushering in a new way to buy our foods. Sure, we can replenish our foods by asking Alexa to order from Amazon, and just last week, one of my favorite convenience stores, Sheetz, announced that their made-to-order foods from all of their 564 stores can be ordered on Alexa. Wow. By 2020, there will be 55 million smart devices in our homes. That makes it the biggest supermarket chain on the planet. What this clearly shows is that the relationship between the Internet of Things and food is here. It's in our homes, in our smart refrigerators and cupboards that will take over the automatic replenishment of those branded products that we can't live without. What we're going to see is a whole new configuration of our homes, where these smart appliances will be around the perimeter. The Bounty paper towels, the Heinz ketchup, those branded staples we love, will leave the supermarket with the exciting foods, the fresh foods, the artisan foods, the prepared foods to focus on and to become exceptional. And for retailers, the Internet of Food means this.
Idea. Let the store come to the people. We created virtual stores, hoping to blend into people's everyday lives. Our first try was subway stations. Although virtual, the displays were exactly the same as actual stores, from the display to the merchandise. Only one thing was different. You used smartphones to shop.
Finding out everything they need to know and reduce waste and food safety issues. There's the UC Davis IC Foods Project and blockchain technologies, which are designed to provide real-time information as food moves through the supply chain from farm to store and makes it all public for retailers and for shoppers. Biodegradable microsensors that offer us the information we need to make our food supply even better and offer consumers the total transparency that they seek. David Ogilvy wrote, "The creative process requires more than reason. Most original thinking isn't even verbal. It requires a groping experimentation with ideas, governed by intuitive hunches and inspired by the unconscious. The majority of businessmen are incapable of original thinking because they're unable to escape from the tyranny of reason. Their imaginations are blocked," he said. Advertising should inform and get people to buy and to tell the truth, especially about our foods and nutrition. Today, people want a connection with the foods they eat. They want to know where foods come from. And if we can use advertising to empower them to eat healthier, we've achieved success. The Muppets Cookie Monster isn't filling himself with cookies any longer. He has a new cooking show and is focused on food. He and his sidekick, Gonger, embark on journeys in their food truck to source ingredients. Anthony Bourdain for kids, if you will. A food segment which offers great promise in teaching our foods where our foods come from. The ad rules have changed dramatically since Ogilvy and Della Femina's halcyon days. We now have iPhones and social media instead of magazine and TV ads. Most CPG and retail brands are not taking advantage. Only 27% of brands engaged in storytelling last year, and most are ignoring Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. The reality is that 3 times the amount of people trust word of mouth more than they do online ads. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone. It tells us when we're hungry. In the 2011 study, Mind Over Milkshakes, researchers found that when people thought they were drinking shakes high in calories, their ghrelin level dropped 3 times more than when they thought they were drinking a shake with 0 fat, no added sugars, and was low in calories. Another study found that when people ate the same food and the same size portion, but it was labeled differently, one was labeled as a snack and the other one was labeled as a meal, the people who had the snack version ate 50% more. It's how we communicate our food messages, especially when it comes to nutrition issues, that makes the difference. What we believe matters to what we consume. What can I say? Social, social, social. Video content is key and powerful and the most engaging content on Facebook. Lucky for us, food is the #1 content by far. Facebook Live is an important advertising tool to engage with. For Martha Stewart, it brought her relevancy to an entirely new consumer base and even made her relevant with Snoop Dogg. The biggest trend I expect to see in advertising in 2018 is built on the fervor we're seeing around all of us, and it's all about the truth. In the UK, Total Bull is a campaign for truth that has gone after Tesco for misleading shoppers about fake farm sourcing. Here's a snippet from one food brand that's very effective in getting the truth out there.
How do we keep the bull away from our eggs? It's simple. We give our hens some space. A lot of it. At Vital Farms, our hens get 108 square feet per hen. How much room does a cage-free hen get? About 1 square foot per hen. I know.
And there will be more to come. How safe do you feel these days? Personal security will be top of mind in 2018. We haven't seen this state of anxiety since 9/11. The American Psychological Association's 10th annual survey finds that over 1/3 of Americans feel nervous or anxious, and a similar amount feel anger or irritability. And we seem to be nervous about a lot these days. Retailers in particular should add visible security in-store and in parking areas. People will be avoiding large groups and events, so bring events in-store, smaller ones and more often. Cybersecurity is top of mind, and almost half of all Americans feel their personal info is less secure than it was 5 years ago. 1/4 of women and 18% of men are coping by eating more. The good news is that over half say they're exercising more as well. But it is affecting America's health and well-being, and underscores the need for in-store dietitians to help shoppers cope with good nutrition and other well-being services. Chains like ShopRite and others offer exercise classes. RDs are offering meditation and yoga classes, all of which are helping shoppers cope, and at the same time building a strong relationship that goes far beyond the price of a can of peas. We can't watch a television program without seeing ads for home security cameras of all types. Amazon and Walmart Jet are testing in-home deliveries, which in my opinion just won't work for a bunch of reasons, in particular personal security. Home Grocer and Webvan experimented years ago with placing delivery units in people's garages. It didn't work. Why do we feel that allowing strangers direct access to our home to put milk in our fridge will? And on top of that, the idea of opening of a lock that triggers a video monitor on your phone, while maybe a nice feature that maybe makes some people feel secure, it opens up the door to hackers. And then there's the whole issue that once the Amazon key is connected to your door, you're 100% Amazon for life. And then there's the issue of drones. Drones that go up the side of a building, up 20, 30, 40 stories high, that open up a compartment in the side, much like an air conditioner, that it actually puts your products right in there. It doesn't have access to your home, but just the compartment that you open when you come home. One benefit to all this anxiety: over half of Americans say that because of the state of America, they're volunteering and supporting causes more that are close to their hearts, which underscores the opportunity for retailers and brands to do the same and align values with their current and potential customers. This is not about political parties, but an overview of where we are today and what is coming. The USDA is one of the most powerful and largest government agencies, no question about it. Food Policy Action has created a scorecard that clearly depicts that food has now become a bipartisan issue, as many existing regulations are being dismantled. To date, there have only been 6 bills voted on to score, and all the votes have been strictly along party lines. These are the upcoming Senate bills that we have to deal with: the Common Sense Nutrition Disclosure Act, Food Security as National Security Act, the Anti-Lunch Shaming Act. Then in the House, the Raise the Wage Act, the Closing Meal Gap of 2017, Organic Agriculture Research Act. Among the most troubling to food businesses has been the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. We Are Still In is a commitment that is heavily supported by food, by farmers, by ranchers and CSAs, but very few retailers have signed on to continue the tenets of the agreement. Check it out at wearestillin.com. I see 2 important focused efforts that will impact our food world in 2018. The first is the San Francisco ordinance that requires retailers to report antibiotic use by meat and poultry suppliers. Across the Golden Gate Bridge, Mill Valley was the first place where the ban on trans fats first started, and this ordinance could also expand across the country. The second is the Farm Bill, which sets in place for a 5-year period eating and farming policy. Oregon Congressman Earl Blumenthal has put together a terrific review of his position and the issues at hand. The fight for food is well worth the read as we gear up for what I believe will be the most controversial debates on the Farm Bill that we've ever witnessed. Our final insight, and then we're going to take your questions, focuses on what the supermarket itself may look like in 2018 and beyond. It's been a game-changing year for our industry and has set the foundation in place for an entirely new way to look at supermarkets. Back in 1989, I sat down with Herbert Hoffer, a European artist, and shared my vision for what I hoped the supermarket in the year 2000 would be. And this is what he put on canvas. No aisles, no gondolas, lots of fresh food, lots of excitement, no check stands, products that are grouped by meal occasions. The top line, a food experience that was second to none. Now, we haven't gotten there yet, but the stores that are being built today are closer to this vision than ever before. It's time that we rethink the four-walled structure, much like Apple has done for their new headquarters. Marsh Supermarkets was a pioneer in testing a new concept that was groundbreaking.
The store is 66,460 square feet. Our goal with the store was to change the task of grocery shopping and make it more of a mall experience. What we did is we took the center store and moved it to the perimeter of the building, creating a courtyard in the middle.
We should wake up each morning thinking about how we can make the shopping experience better. UNATA reports that 68% of those who shop online are likely to switch retailers for a better online experience. Actually, 1 in 3 shoppers switch for personalized offers that are based on their purchase history. We must have what I spoke at the start, a unique curiosity and be open to what can be. Italy World opened November 15th in Bologna with 1 million square foot of everything food. 40 farming factories, 40 restaurants, 6 educational rides, a Disneyland for foodies. They predict 10 million visitors a year. As comparison, Disney World attracts just under 20 million. This is a blueprint for the ideas we should be incorporating in our stores. Taste, education, excitement, and empowerment. 4 things every supermarket should stand for. Also in Italy, in Milan, the Co-op, the supermarket of the future that uses technology to give shoppers total transparency and total information. How we should be using artificial intelligence and augmented reality and move it to everyday shopping, where a shopper can pick up a piece of produce, hold it up, and then on large overboards have all the information displayed. When it was picked, who picked it, what the farm was, and the nutritional information as well. We're witnessing food halls popping up throughout the country. How do we incorporate this into our stores? We know that food halls bring excitement, but there's also so many inefficiencies that supermarket operators can solve. Food halls grew by 37% in 2016. Look at the retailers around the country like Hy-Vee, ShopRite, Mariano's, who have incorporated this passion in their stores. The message to shoppers, we are all things food. And then there's the new model that Reebok and BATA, both here in Santa Monica, are testing. Showroom-only stores. Products can't be purchased, but it's a great concept to introduce new food products, to read the labels, to taste the products, to ask questions. A mini model could be incorporated in every single supermarket. We spoke earlier about indoor farming and the opportunities. In Japan, supermarkets have put greenhouses on top of or adjacent to supermarkets. Why not put a greenhouse right inside the store and allow shoppers to pick their own right off the vine? After all, we've got beer and wine coolers where a shopper can enter and select their brews. Why not for produce? Kohl's has launched a quiet hour once a week where there are no PA announcements, no music, no stocking shelves, no commotion, and offers the parents of the 1 in 6 children that have developmental disabilities a haven to shop together in. Waste-free supermarkets continue to grow globally, but here in the U.S. only a few exist. In Austin, Texas, Ingredients in Denver, Zero Market, and Fillery in Boston. They've all made commitments and should be a model for all stores to learn from. It's time to build our stores that are truly energy efficient with solar glass blocks that actually create energy and solar roofing that not only reduces energy but also creates additional energy that could power an entire store. Online grocery is at the top of everyone's list, and there's no doubt that it will continue to grow and to evolve. Click and collect will become the dominant online channel for all reasons we've described here today. Today, approximately 25% of all grocers offer this service. KMPG reports that almost 75% of shoppers would use this to avoid delivery costs. And the International Council of Shopping Centers finds that 61% of people who do use click and collect also come into the store and make additional purchases. Shoppers do want to have a relationship with their supermarket. They don't want the experience to be faceless. Online delivery will become more fractured and more local. as we see these companies popping up on the landscape. Companies like Milk and Eggs and Good Eggs and others that are local with a specialty and have a unique relationship with farmers and purveyors and offer curated offerings, not the 40,000 products that are on the shelves, and many of which that they offer aren't on the shelves at all. Tomorrow, Box Spirits launches here in California, the first bulk-sized alcohol e-commerce play that's directed to steal business from Costco and Sam's in this very lucrative category. We see larger and national regional delivery players having to shift to the auto-replenishment model as consumers want more curated offerings. One of the biggest threats to traditional grocers is being created by blockchain technology. INS Ecosystem wants to reinvent the way people shop for food. They've raised over $60 million, and Unilever and scores of other manufacturers globally have signed up as partners. Their goal is to out-Amazon Amazon without even greater inefficiencies.
Abuse by retailers and ineffective trade promotions lead to higher prices and worse choice.
Despite the progress in technology and logistics, we still live in the Middle Ages of the grocery industry. Consumers have no choice as retailers push goods onto them. In the 21st century, consumers should decide what products they want, what brands they need, whether to buy from local or national producers. And this is what we call the pull paradigm. It facilitates direct communication between consumers and manufacturers. And we believe retailers don't need to stand in between.
As much as tech might want to disrupt the way people shop and make everything more efficient, let's remember that this business is all about people and our relationship to them. It's time to imagine just what a supermarket can be. Edeka in Germany knows how to do just that and capitalizes this time of year better than any supermarket that I know of. Take a look. Which retailer do you believe will have the most impact in the U.S. in 2018? Will it be Walmart, Amazon Whole Foods, Aldi, Kroger, or Alibaba? We're going to give you 30 seconds, play a little music, and then tell your responses. And then we're going to go to questions. And here's the results of our poll. Which retailer do you believe will have the most impact in the U.S. in 2018? And we spelled believe wrong, but you know what we mean on the quick poll. Walmart, 14%. Aldi, 10%. Kroger, 5%. Alibaba, 3%. And the clear winner at 69%, Amazon Whole Foods will have the most impact in the U.S. next year. So I want to end by asking 3 questions that you should be asking. Number 1, what's that next big trend? And this is something that we work on every single day. What's the next big trend? And then when you find that out, look for the next one and the next one. The reality is that in today's world, it's 24/7, 365 days a week in finding these trends. What are the 3 things that you'd like to know about food consumers that you don't today? List them on a piece of paper. Go to our website, supermarketguru.com. Go to Innova. Go all kinds of places. Go to Grocery Business and find out what are those 3 things. And then when you know them, cross them off and look for the next 3. What's the innovation that you've noticed over the past year that's the most interesting? For me, and I've shared this story over the years. It was winding up at a hotel after 3 plane rides at about midnight. Drove up to the hotel, walked in, and as I walked in, I noticed on the right-hand side there was an avant-garde art museum. It was closed, it was midnight, but thought that, wow, I gotta check that out tomorrow. I then walked to the left to go to the front desk, and as I walked, I found the marble floor changing to plexiglass. And under the plexiglass was rear projection. And what I saw, and what I was now standing on, was a movie, a video of a couple in bed. And you know how when you're in bed, you toss and turn, and you pull the blanket, and you pull the pillow. And I said, wow, this is so cool. Went upstairs. It was late. I was tired, and I took a shower. So I went into the bathroom, pulled back the shower curtain, and there, in my bathtub, was a 3.5-foot high red plastic penguin. So for the first time ever, I realized why they put those phones in bathrooms in hotels. I called downstairs and I said, you know, I know it's late, I hate to bother you, but somebody left a 3.5-foot high red plastic penguin in my bathtub. And the guy at the other end of the phone said, congratulations. And I said, what are you talking about? There's a 3.5-foot high red plastic penguin in my bathtub. And he said to me, he said, we have 12 of these, and we put them in different rooms every night. And if you get the red plastic penguin, we send up a free bottle of wine. So I said, you better send up that bottle of wine because there's a 3.5-foot high red plastic penguin in my shower. What's your wow? What are you doing in your stores with your brands to create a wow that people are going to talk about, that people are going to put on social media, that people are going to get excited about and create a relationship with you? Now it's time for your questions. So first of all, let me apologize because I know we've got a lot of questions that we had a technical glitch, so you didn't see the video and me and our slides the way you should. Be assured that tomorrow you'll get an email, everybody that's registered, and you'll get a link to be able to view this entire video in the proper way. So we apologize for that. So let's take our first question. And imagine you're talking to us in a year's time, and what 3 things do you believe will have had the most impact over the last 12 months? Well, Wayne, thanks. For me, as I said before, tactile. I really see a lot of people really wanting to touch things. Even we're seeing it with a lot of pushback to the iPhone 10 and so on. We're really seeing where people want to touch things. That's number 1. Number 2, neuronutrition. I think we're going to see a huge advance in brain health. Certainly on one end of the spectrum, we've got Alzheimer's. The other edge of the spectrum, we have parents who want their kids to all be the smartest that they can. So I think those issues. And last, and sad to say, I think that the political climate, both with the Farm Bill as well as other legislation, is really going to change the world. And I think what we're going to see from a retailer standpoint, from a brand standpoint, as we've seen with the Paris the Paris Agreement, is that people are going to do it themselves. They're not going to rely on government. But I see a lot more yelling and screaming in Washington about food than we've ever seen before. Let's go to our next. Which retailer did the checkout Christmas Carol? Okay, well, Tracy, that's Edeka in Germany, and it's a much longer video than that. You can go on YouTube, you can play it, it's fabulous. And what Edeka does every year is a different Christmas time video. This one was using obviously their scanners, but they do a lot more things where they have their employees singing Christmas carols in the stores and so on. So check it out. It's on YouTube, Edeka, E-D-E-K-A. What's ahead for store branded prepared foods? Thanks, Neil. You know, it's all about meal kits these days. We're seeing just about every retailer do meal kits for people to bring home. I think when we look at the whole grocerant sector that continues to increase, we're seeing, you know, frankly, retailers hiring CIA-trained chefs and really bringing culinarians to a whole new level in store. So I think it's just going to get better, it's going to get more convenient, and I think it's probably going to get more expensive at the same time. Amazon. Wayne, he just wrote the word Amazon. Yeah, Amazon. I love Amazon. But also, again, when we look at the Amazon key, that opens up the door, pardon the pun, to a whole different way of building a relationship with Amazon. So I think that that's going to slip and slide just a little bit. But clearly, as they start to bring intelligence into Whole Foods, I think that it's going to change everything. Keep in mind that Whole Foods did not have a frequent shopper plan. They don't have all this consumer data that Amazon is really built on. So Amazon has had to really catch up. And there's been a lot of people critical of Amazon not lowering prices fast enough, what they did at Thanksgiving and the like. But keep in mind that a year from now, when Amazon's intelligence, when their technology and their shopper insights really take hold, it's going to be a whole different Whole Foods. They're starting with zero data at Whole Foods from a customer standpoint. And for Amazon, that has to be very frustrating. I'm sure there's a lot of conversations that are saying, how can you build this business without this data? So I think we're going to see a lot more there. Do we have any idea of how many companies have already adopted the new food label? Bonnie, no, we really don't. That kind of data would come from Innova. We'll ask our partner at Innova to do it, and then we'll put it up on our website for you. Do you have any idea what the statistic is for how long it takes the average consumer to shop for food? Yes, that's 22 minutes per shopping trip. Now that's an average of everything from large stores to supermarkets to convenience stores, but on average it's 22 minutes. So when we get into the automatic replenishment area, and supermarkets can just focus on the exciting foods, the fresh foods, the prepared foods and the like, that's not going to change. I think it'll actually expand because of those 22 minutes, I'd say that over half of it is spent just walking up and down those faceless, unemotional aisles. Do you think food and beverage with cannabis or CBO added will become more commonplace in the coming years? Absolutely. There's no question. If we look around the country, Chicago, Denver, here in LA, there are companies doing things with cannabis already, and everything from pastries to candies to chocolates, everything. So yes, there's no question in my mind that cannabis will become a major ingredient. Probably not as big as insects, but certainly a major ingredient. So when do you think labels will finally change now that the 2018 deadline has been pushed out? You know something, our food brands are a lot smarter than, and I hate to say this, than the people in Washington. They've already accelerated it. We've seen a lot of companies already put added sugars on their labels. You know, they understand the consumer. Washington, the politics of Washington now does not understand what consumers want from food. Brands do, and especially a lot of the emerging brands, these smaller brands that are really hip, that are really with it, they're going full blown. They're not going to wait for the government to do this. They're going to put what's on the label that people want. That's how they're building a relationship with shoppers. So I don't care when the government is going to choose to do it. I think that within the next year, we'll probably have 75 or 80% of products labeled correctly in a clear way for consumers. And I include in that whether or not a product contains GMOs. So it's going to be about added sugars, it's going to be about GMOs, and it's going to be truthful labeling. And in fact, we're going to be starting a website very soon called debunkfakefoodnews.com. And on that website, we're going to look at labels, and we're going to do exactly what you're seeing happening in other parts of the globe, where people are going to call out people that are cheating on their labels. So do you think gluten-free is still important to consumers? Yes, Linda, I absolutely do. There's no question. It's become mainstream, and it's not just about those less than 1% of the population that have celiac disease. It's because people have all kinds of issues, and this mind-body connection that we talked about is really elevating to the surface, and people understand finally that what we eat really dictates how we are, how we feel. So yes, gluten-free is not going to go away by any stretch of the imagination. And the good news is, since gluten-free first started, finally we've got lots of companies, lots of brands that are making gluten-free products that are tasty, that are good. We don't have to sacrifice anything as it relates to taste to have gluten-free. What do I think that the top innovation in grocery has been in the past year? Well, Adam, that's hard to say. For me, I will point out one retailer that I really admire, probably more than a lot, Hy-Vee. I think that the innovation, what they've done, and they've built an innovation center. It's not called that, but basically, and I visited it, where they're creating a whole new environment for people to think about grocery stores in a whole different way. I mean, they've got food trucks in there to feed people. There's a Starbucks in there. They've got little areas where people can talk. They actually have a fabulous gym. You know, Gold's Gym is a few blocks away from us. I like their gym better than Gold's Gym, you know, here in Venice. They also have an indoor track that people walk around during the day. From what I understand, nobody's run around it yet, but they walk in teams and so on. So for me, the biggest innovation has been attracting new talent, people who went to Stanford and Harvard, people who think differently. That to me is the biggest innovation that I've seen in our industry. Pauline, thank you. It's very interesting. Appreciate that. Is there any data about the type of purchases a click and collect customer enters the store to make? Yes, there is. Absolutely. Again, that information is going to come from either IRI or Nielsen. We will reach out to them. We'll see if we can do an article on it, post it on supermarketguru.com, and we'll have that. That's a great idea for a story. What place do Aldi and Lidl have in the U.S. growing quickly in the North Carolina market? Well, let's remember, Aldi has been here a long time. Aldi has a ton of stores. They're investing another $5.6 billion over the next 3 years to add more stores. I think that Aldi and Lidl have substantial impact on the way we shop. We're going to see stores, Aldi and Lidl at one end. We're going to see, higher end stores, more curated offerings at the other end, and everything in between. I've said this before, I'll say it again, come under criticism, but that 40,000 square foot supermarket is a dinosaur. It is dead, it's extinct. The problem is that our industry hasn't recognized it yet. But we are seeing a new evolution of these new stores that are much more food focused, much more food oriented, as we've talked about. And we are seeing stores around the country that do it. Mariano's, certainly Wegmans does a fabulous job. Hy-Vee that I've mentioned before, Bristol Farms. I mean, all these stores are really recreating what that experience should be. Food show trends. David, thanks for asking. Clearly what we're seeing with food shows or food expos is the opening of new innovations. It used to be that these food shows, you'd see Coke and Pepsi with these huge exhibits. Now the fun food shows, and one of my favorites is the Fresno Food Expo, matter of fact, that I had the occasion to visit, last year, where you have all these people who produce foods that are there, that are talking to you. It's not, they're salespeople that are there. They're there themselves, and they're talking about their innovations. So I think we're going to see food expos grow, not in size. We are going to see the major ones like the Fancy Food Show continue and grow. And we're going to see these smaller regional ones pop up. But it's all about authenticity. And even when you go to the Fancy Food Show that has well over 1,500 exhibitors, what we're seeing there is a lot more imported products, a lot more of these upstart products, these startup products that are there telling their stories, trying to build a relationship. And last year I was privileged at the Fancy Food Show in New York to host a retailer panel. And what we heard from major retailers, and we had Peapod there, we had King's Balducci's there, we had Whole Foods there, we had Jet.com there, was that what they're looking for when they're going up and down the aisles is they're looking for a relationship with a brand. They're looking to be able to talk to somebody, get passion. They're not just looking for something to put on their shelves. They understand this whole curation process is where we're going. And I think as a result of that, we're going to see a lot more of these shows focus on what they do and what they do really well. For example, and I mentioned the Fresno Food Expo, the only thing that you see there are products that are grown in Fresno. And what people don't understand, they do know that California has this wide array of food and food companies, but Fresno is really in the heart of California, and there's so many food products that are coming from there that we're going to see buyers from all over the country fly to expos like that to be able to discover new foods for their shoppers. What do I think is next in the battle between store brands and consumer brands? Well, Adam, that's a big one. What we saw, and this goes back, I want to say 30 years ago, and A&P certainly has come under a lot of criticism. They're not well thought of these days, obviously, because of shutting down and all their missteps. But what they did do 30 years ago, they were the first retailer that actually had a 3-tiered program for their store brands. They had the basics, then they had Ann Page, which was at parity of the national brands, and the basics being cheaper. So for example, and I'll use peas as an example, in the basics you opened up the can of peas and the water was cloudy and the peas were, not bright green. Then the Ann Page, you opened it up and they were bright green and the water was clear. And then they had what they called Master's Choice, which was upscale, which was better quality than actually the national brands. So they showed us the way, and it actually did very well. We also saw it certainly out of Loblaws with President's Choice. Again, probably 30 years ago, when Dave Nichols first created President's Choice, upscale store brands. So we're seeing that now. We've seen what ShopRite has done, what Kroger has done with organics. These are major inroads. And for Generation Z and for millennials, they see no difference between national brands and store brands. So for them, it's all about the quality. It's all about where that product comes from. So I think that the next evolution in store brands is going to actually be putting more information on those labels, on those packages of where the products come from, the authenticity of it, the traceability of it. And I frankly just see store brands getting bigger and bigger and challenging, frankly, more national brands. We've seen it already in a lot of the national brands, those iconic brands that have been around over 100 years, really faltering. And it's because they haven't kept up with what consumers want. Any top flavor trends that you're seeing that are driving innovation? Pamela? Yeah, certainly flavors are important. I think that what we're seeing are more exotic flavors. We've heard that for probably the past decade. Whether the next cuisine is Ethiopian or Vietnamese or whatever it is, I think certainly we'll continue to see that. But for me, the number one is, as I said in our presentation, poke. I think we're going to see all kinds of poke. It's not going to be the true Hawaiian poke. It's going to be the Americanized poke, similar to what we saw happen with pizza in Italy versus pizza here. I think that poke is going to have all kinds of different textures and flavors, and that's going to be the most exciting for me. How do I see, from Steve, how do I see refrigerated display and storage playing a role into the narrative? Well, what I see as the artwork of the supermarket in the year 2000 from Herbert showed is I think we're going to see refrigeration throughout the entire store. We're not going to see a refrigerated case in dairy. We're not going to see a frozen case in frozen. We're going to see mini cases throughout the entire store. For example, why not put a small refrigerated case? And we've seen that, by the way, already with dog food in the dog food aisle and in cat food for fresh. Why not have little refrigerated cases in produce that might sell eggs, for example, or in the baking aisle that might sell eggs, because when we go in baking, we're going to see a whole new configuration. And I think that the folks at Amazon Whole Foods are probably going to lead that. But we're going to see a whole new configuration of stores where I'm going to walk into a store and there's going to be a breakfast area and there's going to be a lunch area and a snack area. And those products might appear in 2 or 3 different areas of the store. But it's all about destination. You know, we shop going up and down the aisle looking at 40,000 products. That's foolish. That's not the way we eat. So we're going to see a new innovation of how we eat. And as I showed you with the glass blocks that create electricity and power, and from Tesla, the roofing that creates power, we're going to be able to have refrigeration be throughout the entire store, and energy is not going to be an issue because these stores are going to create energy themselves. Do you think the pressure to feed a growing world population will change thinking about GMOs? And that's from Joni. Joni, absolutely. Frankly, I think that the conversation about GMOs is over. I think it's all about cellular agriculture. I think that GMOs, and again, it's limited to just a few crops, that's not the answer to feeding the world. I think, as we saw, a lot of these indoor greenhouses are where we can put them in just about every urban area. We don't need GMOs. We do need cellular agriculture to create new foods. We do need indoor farming to do it. But I think that the conversation about GMOs, frankly, it's over. Harrietta, sorry. Asks, I know that this is focused on grocery stores. What are your views on restaurants and how they need to evolve? You know, yes, it's about grocery stores, but grocerants as well. You know, restaurants need to evolve. There's no question about it. And you look at, you know, these short-term winnings that people like McDonald's have, you know, where they create a dollar menu, that has $1, $2, and $3 menu items on it. That's just short-term. You know, they're going to see a sales spike. Restaurants have to do the same thing. As we talked about the Squirrel in London, I mean, this is a restaurant that has an on-staff nutritionist that comes to your table, that can talk to you about what your food needs are, what are your ailments, and really work with the chef very carefully to do those. I think that QSRs in particular, again, as I said before, poke is going to, you know, be the next big trend. We're not going to see a lot more of these higher-priced burger restaurants. Are already faltering. If you look at what's gone on in Chicago, whether it's Five Guys or any of the others, they're closing burger restaurants. They're not opening new ones. I think that restaurants, grocerants, QSR, fast food, they all have to have the same relevancy of everything that we spoke about. Whether it's transparency of where their foods come from, whether it's the packaging or over packaging that they have, it's about the way they're making the product for us. You know, we're part of the problem. We want to go to a drive-through, and I don't know if you've ever been inside of a fast food restaurant, but you know, inside where the person has the little window, there's a clock there, and next to the clock it says that the average time that they've got to beat, you know, and in some chains it's under a minute, some chains it's under 3 minutes. You know, forget about fast food. If we are really concerned about health and nutrition and taste, you know, let's slow down a little bit. We can go into a restaurant and wait 5 minutes for them to make a burger from scratch for us, rather than just have some that are sitting in a warming tray, you know, in oil or whatever else that they put on a thing for us. We need to slow down a little bit if we want, you know, QSR and fast food to be better for us. And let's enjoy our food. You know, some of the research that we talked about, it's all up here about the size of the food and how much we eat. Why not sit down to a restaurant and enjoy our food and you know, talk among each other and put down, you know, the phones from texting and everything else and being on Facebook and taking pictures. I mean, I've got to tell you, and I have some friends, some great friends that are chefs and so on, and I love them. And we go to great places, but the first thing they do is take out their phone to take a picture. Let's talk about the food versus just taking a picture. What are the big trends that you're seeing reduce waste, food waste at retail? Well, you know, I think that Food Maven, what Patrick and Walter are doing up in Denver is a great model. So, you know, they estimate that there's $200 billion food that's being wasted, and they want to recapture it before it gets wasted. And then they resell it to food service operators. I think that the same thing can happen at retail. And I think that if we look at the commitment that Ingredients started in Austin, Texas, you know, I think close to a decade now, that's what retailers should be doing. They should be looking looking at not only their websites, but going into these stores to see, how they work with vendors, so that the products that come in are not wastefully packaged. And I'm not talking about just the individual package, but the packaging around it, that when it comes in the stores. Retailers should be and could be doing a lot more than they are. And I think that the first thing we need to do is have retailers understand that waste is important to consumers, and that for all of us, if we want to survive on this planet, we've got to reduce waste. And it's not just, about the amount of pages that we print or whatever else. Yeah, that stuff is important. But the real issue is waste on a global scale, and how we're going to accomplish that. And vertical farming, for example, for me, is one of the best ways that we can avoid waste, by putting these farms, right in cities, so we don't have the transportation aspect, we don't have the over packaging and so on. So I think that retailers, could be doing a lot. We keep on getting more and more questions. How are we doing on time? I think we probably, let's do a few more questions. Do you think, do I think that, hold on. Well, I lost the question, but it was something about, do I think that indoor greenhouses that are not organic will be difficult to compete with organic produce? Won't consumers be so confused and just default to organic? Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. And I think that this battle that's going on now in the organic world, where these organic soil farmers are saying that something can't be organic if it's grown hydroponically, is ridiculous. What consumers want from organic is they want to be free of pesticides. And let's not forget that there's over 100 pesticides that can be used in organic farming. Most consumers don't know that. So I think that conventional farms, vertical farms that are not organic, can survive, but I think they've got to tell their story, that in this controlled environment, they don't need pesticides. They use a lot less pesticides than actually organics use, that it's a controlled environment. And I also think that from a growing standpoint, in hothouses, we're going to see better tasting, more nutrients in our produce. So I think that yes, they can compete with organics. Yes, I do think that they can win, but they've got to get that story out there. Steve, thank you. That was great. Appreciate that. Okay, one more question. I'm getting the high side. As you mentioned, texture is important, but where do you see Americans' taste buds going? And that's from John. John, I'm going to say something harsh. We in America have no taste buds. We have gone through, 20, 30, 40 years of salt, sugar, and fat. We don't know what foods taste like. So I think that what we really need is we need a cleansing of the palate. And I'm not talking about just once. We need to get through probably, a decade of pure foods, of foods that don't have additives, that don't have preservatives, clean food, if you would, in order to get back our taste buds. I think that taste buds are critical. Part of it is mindfulness, looking at what we're eating, thinking about what we're eating, closing our eyes. In fact, I got to share something. Here's a plug for the Potato Expo, where we'll be in a couple weeks. And we host the Spud Nation Throwdown. And what we're doing for the first time, and we have chefs, corporate chefs this year competing from all the major food companies that use potatoes. What we're doing for the judges is I'm blindfolding them. So what happens is the chefs are going to cook and so on. The judges are going to see that. And then before they know what the dish is, we're going to give them, and they're blindfolded, what these products are to taste. And that's how they're going to then rate the foods. And then the chef is going to come out and tell them about those foods. So we need to close our eyes. We need to take a bite. We need to imagine exciting, bountiful foods that are delicious and nutritious and wonderful for us. But I think it's going to take time for us to cleanse our palates first. So thank you all for joining us. It's been great. Again, I hope you'll visit us at supermarketguru.com, sign up for our free newsletter. Also, visit us on Facebook at Supermarket Guru, on Twitter at Phil Lempert, and on Instagram at Supermarket Guru. I really appreciate you joining us.